Dan Delmar, Justine McIntyre in for Aaron this week. Have you ever been the victim of inappropriate droning? No, that's not when talk radio gets boring, when people drone on and on. No, I'm talking about drones, like actual little vehicle aircrafts. A Montreal woman feels scared after seeing a drone outside her bedroom window. We'll get to that in a little while. We'll also talk about tipping. Are you doing it less? Some data from Lightspeed, the point of sale system, showing that we're tipping less, and when we are tipping, we're giving less lately. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But first, I should mention, by the way, that our text message system is down, 514-790-0800. So when we do take calls in a little while, we'll have to take phone calls, and the texts will come back shortly. Okay, moving on, and the TikTok trends. I feel like we could do a segment practically every day about debunking a TikTok trend. This one is kind of scary, the homemade sunblock or sunscreen trend. And joining us now is Dr. Mathieu Powell, board-certified dermatologist at the Medic Elle Clinique here in Montreal. Dr. Powell, hello.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
No worries. So I'm sure you've seen a lot of TikTok trends already in your time as a doctor. This latest one is probably a bit frustrating for you. Tell us first, from what you understand, what are people being told to do online, and why is that a really bad idea?
So indeed, this is something that I'm very passionate about. Obviously, it's very disheartening and quite scary to understand that people are being told not to use sunscreen, that potentially it may actually cause skin cancer, or that it might be more deleterious for your health, and that we should actually be using our own sunscreens to protect ourselves. Obviously, as a dermatologist, I see skin cancer on a daily basis, and we know that we want to prevent sun exposure to prevent the development of skin cancer. So it certainly worries me that people are now going to be burning their skin a lot more, and ultimately the risk of skin cancer or the incidence of skin cancer is going to increase.
I know that when I go to see my dermatologist, she always tells me that sunscreen is actually also the best anti-aging cream, and that everybody should be wearing sunscreen on a daily basis, no matter what the weather, and no matter what the season, winter, summer. So, what do you have to say about that?
Absolutely. So we know that, of course, sun exposure can hinder or cause mutations in our skin, causing skin cancer, but it also might increase what we call photoaging, which means increasing brown spots, pigmentation, fine lines, and wrinkles. So the more you protect your skin from the photoaging aspects of sun exposure, you potentially could have rejuvenated skin a lot longer.
Well, that's good news.
Absolutely.
So everybody should be then wearing a sunscreen that is an appropriate commercial sunscreen rather than trying to make their own.
So yes, so this is this sort of scary trend. Now I understand why people are sometimes a little bit more skeptical about what they put into their body and onto their body. There's always a sort of looming fear. But the concept of making your own sunscreen is quite dangerous. Of course, it's not as simple as just putting a zinc powder into a lotion in the right emulsion. It doesn't necessarily mean that that emulsion will be properly creating a filter to properly protect your skin. And the only way of actually testing your own sunscreen is going out into the sunlight and ultimately determining whether you burn or not. And that is not the way sunscreen is properly created. It's actually a complex procedure where a team of chemists and scientists will be exposing photons or energy of light onto a sample to see whether your skin is properly going to be protected. That's exactly what an SPF is. An SPF is a quantified number or ratio of the amount of sun exposure that you need to burn versus the amount of sun exposure you need to stay protected. And that's why that SPF concentration is so important. And I certainly wouldn't recommend people making their own sunscreens. There's so many good sunscreens out there that can hopefully fit with our values. Vegan, cruelty-free, mineral-based, for sensitive skin, for people who have dry skin. There's just so many that are out there that have been properly tested and approved, that have a DIN number and that are FDA approved and recommended by dermatologists. I really recommend seeking care from a dermatologist and trying to choose a product that's right for you.
Dr. Mathieu Powell joins us right now. I have a bit of sensitive skin, so I'm wearing this Nivea moisturizer thingy with SPF 10 in it right now. We're heading into a heat wave. Is SPF 10 enough FPS, or how much should we be looking for if we're in the sun a lot?
So obviously, I always appreciate when a company is offering some SPF in their product to at least aim to have some level of sun protection. But ideally, if you're going to be outdoors for long periods of time, especially around noon, ideally you want an SPF of at least 30, which will cover at least 97 to 98% of sun rays, and preferably an SPF of 50, which would hopefully confer a 98% protection of sun. Now, of course, using a moisturizer that has some level of SPF is useful, especially if you have dry, irritated skin, but preferably stronger sunscreen on the nose and ears, ideally ones that have maybe minerals like titanium or zinc would be a little bit better protection.
There are some really good fluid ones that I like to use that are almost liquid. They're very light textured, and I actually prefer that. Um, I have
That's fine. Those work quite well.
They do, eh? Yeah, that's what. Well, it was actually my dermatologist that recommended it. So there you go.
Good. Well, there you go. We're in congruence. I concur. But
Perfect.
I just want to point out, however, that even though it's liquid, the product is properly tested so that it delivers the amount of SPF. But in order to get the level of SPF that's on the bottle, you need to be putting on a hefty amount and reapplying throughout the day so that you're actually protected by that product.
I'll try to remember to do that. I do have a question though about vitamin D, because we all know that vitamin D can be a problem, especially in the winter months. We don't get enough vitamin D. Is this one of the concerns about wearing too much sunscreen or going overboard with sunscreen?
So this is one of the things that were mentioned by some of these TikTok trends and this is not the first time we're hearing this, that people are worried that if they overprotect their skin, that they will be vitamin D deficient. But that's not entirely true. In order to get the amount of vitamin D from the sun exposure onto your skin, you only need 5 to 10 minutes of unprotected sun exposure in order to have the proper conversion into the active form of vitamin D into your body. And you can obtain the same levels of vitamin D through oral supplementation or even through foods like fish oils or other products in your diet that will be able to replenish your vitamin D. So I'm more concerned about the damaging effects of sun exposure or overexposure to sun exposure than the risk of developing vitamin D deficiency.
Dr. Mathieu Powell, dermatologist at the Clinique Medic Elle here in Montreal. Thanks very much for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.